Take two. Welcome to the Music Nut Program. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining me today. And welcome back to the latest edition of its Chris Whitley Wednesday. Today, I will review Chris Whitley's third album, Terra Incognita. This would be Chris's last proper studio album to be released on a major label. It was released on Work Records, which was a subsidiary of Columbia Records, which at this point would be bought out by Sony Music Entertainment. All of his releases, proper studio live releases from this point, would be on independent labels, and this was released on February 18, 1997. Now, this album would be more of a focus on melodic tracks because you could tell that Work was pushing for Chris Whitley to have a hit. Sound wise, we're combining the roots rock, Americana with a taste of blues, from Living with the Law with the Jimi Hendrix meets grunge sound of Den of Ecstasy. The noisy arrangements here are not as much of the structures of the song as they are for color and ambiance. So you got a combination of those two sounds, and more often than not, I think the album works. So let's talk about who played on the album. We have Chris Whitley, of course, on lead vocals, all guitars, banjo, and bass, and Chris Whitley wrote all the songs on here. We have Dougie Bone on drums, keyboards, bass, and lime green guitar solo. And he also had a hand in producing the album along with Chris and Toby Wright. And we have several guests on this album as well, which would not become a recurring theme. Since it's hard to read the liner notes on here, even as a new release in 1997, because the lettering is white on gray. Yes, it was hard even with really good eyes. I will now go to Wikipedia and read to you the credits, and I did confirm they are correct on the credits here. So, here we go. Who else was on this album? Daniel Lanois played a guitar solo on Weightless, as did Patricia Place. We have Louis Lepore guitar on one track. We have Steve Almas playing bass on four tracks. Alan Gevert playing bass on one song. We have Melvin Gibbs on bass on two songs. Melvin Gibbs was best known for his work with a band that I really love called Rollins Band, and he's worked with a lot of other artists, as has Mike Watt, who has a bass solo on the song Gasket. He, of course, was in the Minutemen, Fire Hose. He's had a lot of other projects. Matt Greenberg on bass, Brady Blade on drum loop. We have John Seymour on organ, but he's listed as organ donor. Jason Frangos on cello, Trixie Whitley, Chris's daughter, on backing vocals, and Jesse Lee Montague on backing vocals on one track. So let's get into the songs. This Flies of the Earth is just a 1 minute acoustic piece with a short vocal on this from Chris. Works as a nice intro. We go into Automatic. Automatic, which is listed as one of the featuring songs here on the little sticker on the album, is a blatant attempt at radio here, crossover radio. It's a good song. It doesn't sound like a Chris song to me. It's well written. It's it's good. It's not great. I don't even think Chris's heart's into this, but it's a decent song. Then we got Clear Blue Sky. This is more Chris's thing. This album is not a blues album, but as in most of his albums, blues is at the core, part of the foundation. We got this repetitive, killer, slinky, loud riff over and over, and it just takes you in. Chris's vocal on here between his great screams, his falsetto, work very, very well. This is a very cool track. It just takes you in. Weightless. When I hear Weightless, which was to be proposed as a single, but the only single we did get was Automatic, I listen to this song. It is a very well written song, a lot of care taken into this. And I hear this song and I think, how come this hasn't been recorded by another artist? It sounds like something that like Tom Waits or John Hyatt would have wrote, and then someone else would have discovered it, and you'd have more of an expressive singer, perhaps more accessible. Because Chris Whitley, I love his voice, but I don't know if the masses ever would have. I think this song is it's a fantastic song. It's my favorite song on the album, and I hear this, I'm like, how is this not covered by someone else? I didn't think that way in '97, but having all this musical experience behind me now I hear this and I'm like, how did this not later get recorded and that Chris's estate would make some money off of this? Great song. Very well written. Power Down. This is one of a few tracks on here which echoes the sound of the day, which I mean is in 1997, if you were listening to the radio, you had artists from a variety of genres doing the soft verse, loud chorus. The Pixies did it better than anybody. Nirvana brought it to the masses. And then after that, you would have artists, classic rock artists, alternative rock artists, adult contemporary artists, especially doing the soft verse, loud chorus. That's what I hear on Power Down, which is a cool song. Not one of my favorites on the album, but I like it a lot. On cue, the loud, noisy arrangements on here really work for the song's aesthetic. For the kind of mood it is, it works for this song. It's very well done. Immortal Blues, it's not a blues. It's just an acoustic love song with just a repetitive verse, and it's pretty cool. Cool Wooden Crosses. Now, Cool Wooden Crosses is a very well written song. The noise is brought in as color during the second part of the choruses. In my opinion, this works better just as an acoustic track, which it was on the 2004 album Weed, which has acoustic versions of the songs from the first three albums. I think Cool Wooden Crosses is a very well written song, but I think the arrangement doesn't work very well in here. I think it should have just been kept as more of a really somber acoustic song. Then we go into Still Point, which mixes Chris's banjo with a lot of loud feedback drenched guitars on it. Very repetitive vibe. It's just that same rhythm over and over, which takes you in like Clear Blue Sky, but it doesn't really it's not quite as strong as that song, but it's quite good. Gasket. Now here we're really getting back to the blues because we're doing a repetitive theme here, but the way Chris is singing, he sounds like an old blues man, but it's very loud. There's a lot of racket being brought on here by everybody that's involved in the song. And this is a song that Chris would end a lot of shows with. It is a cool show closer. And the guitar work on here is really, really cool. One Long Day, which is Ultra Glide's more cerebral sister. Ultra Glide was, of course, on Den of Ecstasy. It has that same vibe, same structure. The only difference is this is a little shorter, not quite as noisy, but we do have a cool, noisy guitar solo from Chris Whitley on it. It's really cool. Ariel's a very cool track. A lot of great guitar work on this song as well. I enjoy this song a lot. Last, we have Alien. Alien, like Weightless, and even more like Automatic, sounds like something written for radio. The difference is I think this is a better song than Automatic would be, Not maybe not as good as Weightless, but you could tell the way Chris is singing. He's singing it very straight. He's not going into falsettos, not going in that whisper into a scream thing that he did so well. But it's a cool track. It's a cool closer. And it ends this album, which has grown on me over the years. I wasn't a big fan of it back in 1997, but these days I have more of an appreciation for Terra Incognita. So, did you know of this album when it came out in 1997? And if you did you pick it up and what did you think of it? What are your favorite songs on this album? Please let me know in the comments. Join me next week on It's Chris Whitley Wednesday when I talk about Chris Whitley's fourth album. And from here, all of his proper albums, except for a compilation, which I'll be talking about later, would all be on independent labels. I will be talking about 1998's Dirt Floor from Messenger Records next week on Chris Whitley Wednesday on the Music Nut program. So, coming up, I will have a few different shows coming on. I will be reviewing Thin Lizzy's Acoustic Sessions album since I did Thin Lizzy Thursday recently. So I'm going to give that a few listens and I'll give that a review in the next few days. Also, with February coming up, I will have my monthly series. I will be doing one show every month about albums having a significant anniversary this year in 2025. My 10 favorite albums of 1975. I plan on putting that out on Saturday, February 1. So be on the lookout for that. I'll also have another album war show and an album after show in the near future. So thank you all so much for joining me today. Do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.